Hi, this tutorial is brought to you by pm-prep35.com. We are a free online PMP training website. Do visit our website to find a lot of free resources for PMP training, for mock exams and chapter and tests, as well as tutorials. In this session, I am going to cover collect requirements process, which is part of project scope management knowledge area. This process is a planning process. It falls in the planning process group, and it understandably deals with the creation of the requirement documentation and the requirement traceability matrix. So the collect requirements process deals with converting project needs to stakeholder requirements. Requirements are the basis for scope, baseline and other aspects like cost and quality planning. So based on your gathering of requirements, once you put your requirements into the requirement documentation, then you freeze the scope. So your define scope process takes the requirement documentation as one of the inputs. So the requirement documentation has lot more details which might fall outside the boundaries of the scope, but then when you define the scope, you decide what would be the inclusions and what would be the exclusions. The requirements are classified as business requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements. Within solution requirements, you can have functional requirements and non-functional requirements, and you have transition requirements, project requirements and quality requirements. So when you look at each of these categories, business requirements deal with the business flow. So the requirement documentation does not directly deal with the solution. Solution is only one part of it, but then it just puts down what is the business requirement, what are the needs of the different stakeholders in the form of putting their stakeholder requirements in the form of writing use cases and specifying the context in which the system or the requirement will be is needed. So it not only deals with putting together the solution, but also it states what are the functional requirements, what are the non-functional requirements. Non-functional requirements might be related to performance, stability and things like that, but business requirements talk at a higher level in terms of what is the business process that's involved, what are the different business scenarios, how will the system fit in. It also deals with use cases, what are the different requirements of different stakeholders who will work with the system. So it look at different angles of the requirements and then document all that in the requirement documentation. Transition requirements deal with how this project or the product will become operational, what are the steps to do that. So those things get in the transition requirements. Then you have data requirements and things like that, which also fall in the requirement documentation. So requirements can be functional and non-functional. Requirements can be technical. While project scope might include many requirements not making to the actual project requirements, collect requirements process is responsible for accounting stakeholder needs and prioritizing requirements for the current project phase. So it just prioritizes requirements. It is based on this the product scope is defined in the define scope process. So with that basis, let's quickly brainstorm or look at what are the contents of the requirements document. From there you can easily make out what would be the inputs. So here is one of the requirement documentation I randomly picked up. So if you look at it, you have the version history, which specifies when you have a baseline and you want to re-baseline, so you use a table for that, specifying who has re-baseline, what are the contents of the new baseline, why changes were made. So if you look at the table of contents, you can find project overview and background, project dependencies, the different stakeholders, then what use cases you are going to have, or you capture the requirements through use cases, looking at the requirement from different users point of view. You also have business process flow, business rules, which fall under business requirements, part of the requirement documentation. Traceability matrices, all these things are appendix. Traceability matrix is normally a separate document which tracks the requirements from one phase to another. So this is one format of the requirement documentation. So you can see project overview and background, project dependencies, stakeholders, key assumptions and constraints, use case diagrams. So you specify the actors as part of the use case, who are the users who are going to use it. So those details fall in the requirement documentation. You have one more requirement documentation format here. So the table of contents here covers the business purpose, functional purpose, measure of success, the key success criteria, stakeholders, approval authority, project priorities, project diagrams, work context diagram, system diagram, assumptions, business requirements. There might be different types of business requirement, business flows, all those get captured. Then global requirements, which are nothing but the non-functional requirements. Then you have user requirements, looking at it from different users point of view, which might be the stakeholder requirements. So you also have the glossaries, which might be in terms of explaining the terminologies, but that's part of all documentation. But the main aspects of a requirement documentation or capturing requirements from all point of view, which might be the business, stakeholder, solution, and transition, and these are the most important categories. With that background, let's quickly think what could be the inputs for this particular process. So based on this, the main input is actually the stakeholder management plan. The stakeholder management plan is one of the main inputs, basically because the stakeholder communication requirements, how stakeholders should be engaged while capturing requirements, is very important. Because when you have some requirements coming from the top management, it's very important to include all the stakeholders, engage them to get the requirements progressively elaborated. So that's where the stakeholder management plan, which has details about how stakeholders will be dealt, how the communication will happen, or how will they be engaged into the whole process of requirement gathering, is really useful. So that's where the stakeholder management plan is really useful. Now, once you have talked about stakeholder management plan, obviously the stakeholder register as such is a very important input, because if you need to know whom to manage, you first need to know who are the stakeholders. So that's where the stakeholder register, which has details about the stakeholder name, stakeholder contact information, their roles and responsibilities in the project, are all listed down. So stakeholder register, stakeholder management plan help capture details related to stakeholders, because you get your requirements progressively elaborated using the stakeholders. So these are two key inputs. And since this is a project scope management process, obviously the scope management plan plays an important role, and also the requirement management plan. The scope management plan gives you direction in terms of what kind of scope will this, although you capture a lot of requirements, it provides you a guidance, the scope management plan. Although the requirement management plan is what will say how requirements should be collected, scope management plan is one level above, which acts as a guidance for you to capture the requirements. So the requirement management plan as such tells how requirements will be collected, what is the process, what are the tools and techniques that would be used. So those kind of details come from the requirement management plan. But the scope management plan gives you a direction, because after collecting the requirements, you have to define the scope. So you got to be really careful about what you are collecting, and you have to keep in mind. So that's where the scope management plan is really useful. Then the other important input, because most of the most of the times the requirement documentation gets done in the initial few iterations. So that's where the project charter is one of the important inputs, because your high level requirements are part of project charter. So you have the product acceptance criteria as part of your project charter, which is again very important to keep in mind while you collect the requirements. So the most important inputs for this process are the scope management plan and the requirement management plan. Then comes your project charter, then comes your stakeholder register, stakeholder management plan. So these are some of the inputs that are very important for this process. So the scope management plan provides guidance for different process in scope knowledge area. Scope management plan defines the boundaries, specifies the boundaries in terms of what type of requirements need to be collected. So that's why the scope management plan is an important input, although it's really important when it comes to define scope process, but then you have to keep in mind this is why we are doing this particular project, so it becomes easier to capture requirements. So that's where the scope management plan acts as a guiding force. Then comes the actual plan, which is the requirement management plan, which has details about how requirements will be captured, what tools will be used. So because these two are there and we are getting specific to the particular process, we don't have project management plan as the input here. That role will be taken care by the scope management plan and the requirement management plan. Then the stakeholder management plan will give you provide you how stakeholders will be engaged, how their communication requirements of the different stakeholders, how can they be communicated, will all be part of stakeholder management plan. The project charter understandably has the high level details, higher level requirements. Stakeholder register has the stakeholder list. So once you have these, the tools and techniques used understandably in this process are more related to deriving things from a group of people who are the stakeholders and trying to get the best out of them. So anything that is relevant to that, any sort of thing related to interviewing, group decision making, group creativity. Why? Because sometimes the stakeholders might not be able to express what they want to. So that's where you have the project manager or a facilitator or a moderator must be involved to get the best out of them. So that's where the group creativity technique is really important. And then you normally have techniques like brainstorming, Delphi technique. Then you circulate, you get surveys done, you pass on questionnaires to get answers, collate that, then refine it and pass it on again to stakeholders to get more clarity. So these kind of tools and techniques are really important. You do a lot of diagramming here, you do prototyping, so that you are very clear or you get the best out of the stakeholders. So when you look at a high view, the tools and techniques for this particular process are getting people interviewed, pulling them into group decision making, making them get into consensus, making them list down all the ideas and then refining those ideas. So whatever is relevant to this, they become the most important tools and techniques. So that way interviews are one of the technique, one-to-one discussion with stakeholders with prepared set of questions to record and analyze the responses to detail the requirements. So this is nothing new. You engage in one-to-one discussions with some of the key stakeholders to understand what their need is. So that's where interviews are really useful. Then focus groups or a specific type of in this technique, you normally know, or you already are aware who will make a say. So that kind of, you gather those people together, you have an agenda in place, and you get your questions answered. So the focus group normally has a group already scheduled. You schedule a meeting with the most important people who will have a say, the stakeholders. Then you invite those participants, then you moderate with, you allow them to discuss, then you get their responses. Then you have somebody who is observing, they have more queries to this focus group. So you collate this and then you get you get clarity about the requirements. So focus group is normally people who are subject matter experts and you know whom to involve. So that's where the focus groups or involved, where there's a moderator to help the discussion get going. So focus group is one of the so these people are SMEs, as understandably. Then there are facilitated workshops. The workshops are a very common technique used when you gather requirements, wherein there are different subject matter experts involved. They are from different backgrounds, so they each of them has different requirement, but then these conflicts are resolved, and then the requirements are prioritized. Trainings are part of the workshop, because once you are going to collect requirements, sometimes you need to be trained to understand how things are happening, and then you will have to take their idea, and you have conflicts between different stakeholders. Those get resolved, and the final requirements get prioritized for the project. So that way, facilitated workshops are important technique. In case of workshops, there are different types of workshops. So it's called as JAD, QFT. These are all techniques that are followed. So in this case, you have use case stories done, you have use cases done, and then you start from getting the requirements, then you do the design, and then you implement it. So this is one of the important technique to gather requirements. Then you have group creativity techniques. You have brainstorming, then you have nominal group technique, idea mind mapping, affinity diagram, multi-criteria decision analysis. So these are all some of the important techniques. So in case of brainstorm, you have people just coming up with ideas. There's a set of people, one person starts off the discussion, then the next person builds over it, and you just put down all the requirements together. Even in this case, it is more effective if the people involved are SMEs, because your discussion does not go away from what it is actually supposed for. So that's where, when the SMEs are involved, one person tells an idea, the other person builds over it. So then once your brainstorming is over, normally an affinity diagram is created, which is grouping all these ideas into different different groups, so that way you can give it to different teams, and then they can use it for their project development and things like that. Then you have nominal group technique, which is you get individual responses first step, then clarify and consolidate, then rank these responses. So this has a voting process involved, the nominal group technique. But in case of affinity diagram, is more like grouping different ideas to different categories. Nominal group technique is used when there are different ideas and you want to group and you want to rank as to which one is the best one. Although you have multiple stakeholders contributing to a lot of things, then you want to vote and get the best requirements or the most important requirements. That's where the nominal group technique is important. Then multi-criteria decision analysis is used to do weightage, or where there are multiple criteria involved. You rank different or rate different options. So the options are towards the row side. You have 3 rows here, and each one is an option. Then you have the different criteria as column. Then you give rank or number to each of them, and then you have weightage added. So based on the weightage, here the weightage, then you multiply, here's the weightage given in the bottom. So you multiply your weightage and the rank, your score given for each of the criteria. Then you have a total benefit. Based on this benefit, you decide which is the better option. So multi-criteria decision analysis is also a ranking system, but it has weightage involved. Apart from that, you have mind mapping. The mind map is more like you do a brainstorming session. There are different ideas, common ideas. You put all that in one map, and you get to know what are the commonalities, what are the differences. So you have one place to look at things. So these are some of the important techniques that are group creativity, when you collect requirements using group creativity techniques. Apart from that, you have group decision making techniques, which is more related about you might have multiple requirements that, but then you have to decide which is really important. That's where you either have a unanimity wherein everybody is sure that this is really important requirement, so that way it is you take that become the high priority requirements. Then you have majority wherein 50% or more people are saying that a specific requirement is important, so that way it becomes these things help you categorize which is high priority requirement, which is low priority, which is medium priority. So you have unanimity, majority, plurality, dictatorship. So the names themselves give an idea of what kind of technique will be used. In case of dictatorship, somebody tells this is really highly important, somebody who is really powerful as a stakeholder, he decides, so there is no other go but to do those requirements. So then you can use questionnaires and surveys where it is properly written down what sort of questions you can ask the stakeholders, and based on the answers you include some of the requirements or some of the features into your products, into your project, or implement that as a part of your product. So questionnaires and surveys. Then you normally observe. Sometimes you do a requirement analysis, you don't have the choice to talk to stakeholders, but then you go and see what's happening in that particular area. You go to a factory or a unit, you see what they do, and then you document, because their time is really important, or they are not in a position to communicate. So that way observation, on the job observation, is something very important. And once you gather all your requirements, sometimes the customer is not sure what he needs, you do a prototype. So this gives a lot more confidence, and it becomes a basis for coming up with further requirements for the customer. So you prototype something in the form of a storyboard, which is sort of images that you can navigate, and then based on that the customer comes up with more requirements, or you can build more functionalities. Prototypes are mostly used in software industry, so that way it's a very key feature in key technique for gaining confidence. Then benchmarking, wherein you use a system, you try to model an existing system. There is not much scope for innovation, but you try to do something that has already been done in the industry. There's some standard is set by some system, some application, you try to meet that. Context diagrams are useful when you have to show how a particular system interacts with users, external users, how it interacts with other processes, other systems. So that's where the context diagrams are really useful when you want to show how the system is positioned or the application is positioned. Document analysis, sometimes it's good to look at historical documents that are maintained for similar projects, and based on that you can collect requirements. So document analysis, which is done from the organizational process assets, historical information, you read those and you can collect requirements. So that's important. So the output for this particular process is requirement documentation, which has the business requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements, project requirements, transition requirements. So these things, so when you say business requirement, you include a context diagram there. When you talk about stakeholder requirements, you include a use case diagram there. So that's why you have the different techniques that were there in the form of diagramming, involving creativity, so that you can use those diagrams out here in your documentation to detail what the project is all about, what the different stakeholder needs are. The last output is a requirement traceability matrix. The requirement traceability matrix tracks the requirement. The requirement usually has an identifier, and for each document, or in a design document, you might convert that requirement into a design, and in that section you will have a number, and that number normally goes into the particular column for that particular requirement. So you track your requirements from inception to closure across different phases, and then this way you ensure that all the requirements in your requirement documentation are covered in some one way or another in all the deliverables across the phase. So the requirement traceability matrix has all the phases, and it has a column for all the phases and a placeholder wherein you can write the section number wherein each requirement is tracked. So that's also an important output of this particular process. So that's about this particular process. Collect requirement process deals with creation of the requirement documentation, the non-functional requirements. The requirement documentation has business requirements, stakeholder requirements, then it has the solution that would be part of this requirement documentation, transition requirements and all that. You use different techniques like diagramming techniques, basically not only to group ideas but then resolve those ideas into proper requirements and also depict those in the form of diagrams or user stories, or sometimes you create prototypes to show what you're understanding, and then you derive more requirements from there. Sometimes you have to do observations on the job. Sometimes if you don't have any idea of what to do, or if there's a better product available and the customer wants a similar product, you might have to do a benchmarking where you study a product and build your own. So these are some of the techniques that are possible to derive or elicit requirements. For this you need the stakeholders, list of stakeholders from the stakeholder register. You also need to know how to manage them, and that comes from the stakeholder management plan. You have a project charter which has high level requirements. Then you have your requirement management plan, the scope management plan, to tell what to do or how to build the requirement documentation. So these are the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs for this particular process. That's about this particular process. Do visit pm-prep35.com for a lot of free resources and mock exams. Thank you.